So, hello there, everybody. I am very happy to be here with someone whose name I probably don't even need to say for you to know who this wonderful gentleman sitting here with me on the next screen. But of course, for those of you that just may not know, I have the absolute pleasure of sitting with Stephen Forrest, who I'm very honoured and proud to say is my friend. That's a really important one. But also, a colleague because of things I'll share in a minute. And, you know, what do I say? An unbelievably inspiring and fascinating human being who has changed the face of astrology. And I know that sounds like a pretty big statement, but I can very confidently say it through experience and observation and everything else. So I just want to say, first of all, Steve, thank you so much for taking the time because time is very precious, as we all know in today's world, to sit with me so that we can share some very exciting news. That's that we'll get to that bit in a minute. We'll keep them on the edge of their chairs just for a bit longer. Um, and Steve, a lot of people out there that know me when I talk about stuff, and I think a lot of people that know Steve probably know he's a Capricorn, I'm a Sagittarian. And when I was thinking, Steve, about hopping on here and having just a nice casual chat with you, it took me back to the time that we first met, actually in the flesh, so to speak. You know, I haven't given Steve a chance to say anything yet. That's pretty good for what I'm about to share with you all. We've been emailing each other, Steve, I believe, for about 18 months when we first connected.
Yeah.
And then came the day that I'm going to pick Stephen Forrest up, in my car and drive him to the little town I live in. And I remember thinking, oh my God, what am I going to say? How am I going to say it? Am I going to say the right thing? Anyway, to cut a long story short, Steve, I have Mercury in Capricorn, for those of you that probably don't know that. And Steve has Capricorn energy pumping into my Mercury. And I think, just like the beginning of this talk, for the 3 hours of our drive back to Port Stephens, I don't think I shut up. So um, now I've done it again. So he doesn't even need to say anything. So, Steve, let you say something. I'm sure you remember that moment.
Well, it seems I can squeeze a word in here at least. I could listen to you for hours, though.
Oh,
You and I go back so far. It must be 20 years ago the first time I came to Australia. I guess it
yeah.
was. Wow, they're in Sydney Airport, and we were instant friends. That kind of Capricorn Sagittarius groove. I've got Venus in Sagittarius and Jupiter conjunct the Sun, so I can relate to that Sagittarian energy. But the happy announcement to which you alluded, earlier in your presentation, I'm coming back to Australia, and I'm really excited about that. This August, it's been a long, long time since I was there, and I have so many good friends there. And the first time I went to Australia, I had the feeling that if I'd seen Australia in my 20s, I would have wanted to immigrate there. I was just so taken by it. But by then I was just too rooted in the United States and the realities of midlife. But I really look forward to seeing Australia, and I'm thinking I'll probably be able to bring my partner Michelle, who's never seen it. Poor thing is 60 years old. She's never met a kangaroo. We've got to do something about that.
We will do something about that. I'm sure Michelle is so thrilled that you've announced to everyone watching this that she's turned 60, and she is amazing, I'm going to say. Michelle is
Yeah, she is.
incredible, incredible in many ways.
Yeah.
And yes, we definitely wanted to be here. And Steve, we ran many programs here in Australia. We did workshops, we did the apprenticeship program in the format that it was run in back then. And, I know you still do a lot of lives, well, Omega and the stuff in the States, and recently, going to Greece and
Mhm.
China and a little bit more in America. But I'm also aware you have a lot of other work that you're doing. So before I share a bit more about what we're going to be doing here in Australia, maybe you would like to just share for a moment about the school, because
Mhm.
maybe we do that. Just I'd love to hear, because I'm so fortunate to be able to be a tutor at
Yeah,
FCEA.
yeah.
I love it. It's amazing, but I think it would be nice if Steve just wanted to share a little bit about that.
Sure, sure. I'd love to. FCEA, Forrest Center for Evolutionary Astrology. It's an online school. Um, for 20 years, I did the apprenticeship programs where people would come together for 4 days or 5 days, and once a year, maybe twice a year, for an intensive program on a certain topic. And after somebody had attended 4 of these sessions, we'd give them a certificate, and 4 more we'd give them a level 2 certificate. And a lot of people became professionalized, in their work as a result. It was very successful. And I don't mean to sound negative here, even though what I'm about to say might hint a little in that direction. The certificates were basically kind of a warm body certificate. Indeed, this person sat there, through 4 days, 4 times in a row, or 5 days, and I needed to teach in a more rigorous way. I needed to start with zero and, head towards infinity, step by step by step. Because some people in the apprenticeship program, they got their certificates, but they never attended a synastry program, or they'd never attended a program about transits or progressions. And so their knowledge was deep in some areas and spotty in other areas. Not so with the FCEA. We start at A and we head for Z, and there are tests. So, people, I don't think we flunked anybody yet, but if somebody fails a test, they get another shot at it, and we help them pass. But by the time somebody's finished that program, they have a complete knowledge of what we somewhat embarrassingly call the Stephen Forrest method. And putting my name in lights like that makes me feel a little weird, but it is accurate in that I have a pretty unique approach to astrology. My philosophy of astrology is different from the mainstream, and also there are many techniques I use and many techniques that I think are effective, but I don't use them. So it's a very efficient, targeted, structured way of approaching a reading, and it works really, really well. I'd be the last one to say it's the only way to do astrology. Anybody who says that is crazy. There are lots of good ways to do astrology, but I also would say I have never met an astrologer who is practicing the second best kind of astrology they had ever discovered. So of course I think mine is the best, and I can sit very comfortably with people who think theirs is the best, even though it's different from mine. There's no such thing as the one true astrology, but we teach a very effective, very efficient form of evolutionary astrology framed in a counseling context in the school. And I'm really proud of it, proud of our graduates and just where it's going. So thanks for asking.
No, no, and as you should be, because it really is ticking all the boxes. And even though I'm not a Capricorn, I have a lot of Capricorn in my chart, and so I have a high expectation, and it's very, very important in today's world that we educate ourselves, as those of us that wish to become professional astrologers, because you can do a lot of damage. And the school is
Mhm.
just, what the students that being turned out of the school, I'm just continuously so impressed with what they're, how they're interacting and their analyses and all of that. So thank you, Steve, for sharing. So
Welcome.
go on.
Yeah, I was about to say all I really miss from the old apprenticeship program are the hugs. And because
Yeah,
the FCEA is an online program. We'll occasionally do a get together like in Greece last May. But I say the hugs, the kind of social side of it, getting to know people, and the apprenticeship program. We had marriages and relationships came out of it, lifelong friendships, affairs, catastrophic romances, just the reality of life. We had deaths in the program, and
did.
nothing turns a crowd into a village faster than losing a member and
Yeah,
humbled before that ultimate reality. So I miss the multidimensional social side of the apprenticeship programs, which is one reason I'm looking forward to coming back to Australia, because you folks were right at the top of the list as far as that goes. First time I spoke in Australia, I was very well received. I felt very good about it. And at the end, somebody had rewritten, I believe it was the Australian national anthem with
yes.
lyrics that I believe the Aussie expression was to take the piss out of me.
That that's the
And
one.
it was playfully insulting in a totally hilarious, fun way, and I completely fell in love with Australia in that moment.
Oh, yeah, I remember that very well. It was beautiful. And, the other thing too, just to add to what you're saying, coming back here to Australia, the opportunity for us to come together and all the things that Steve is sharing and to learn from each other's stories, because we learn so
Mhm.
much from each other and the
Yeah,
experiences.
yeah.
So, let me tell you a little bit more about the details, and then you'll be able to go to the website, you'll be able to check it all out. We will be running this program from the 2nd of August until the 6th of August, 2026. And we're running it in Newcastle, New South Wales at the Ridges Resort, which is there right on the water, beautiful resort, offers everything and more that you could possibly want. Um, there are all sorts of accommodation packages, there are payment plans, there's all sorts of things that you can go on the website and check out. So um, www.aquariusrising.net.au. I haven't even asked Steve this question, but I'm perhaps imagining it may also be up on Steve's website for people to see. I probably should have checked that question with him beforehand that he's going to be here in Australia. But for now, you can definitely go to my website, info@aquariusrising.net.au, and anything that you want to ask me, nothing is impossible. So, we are going to have an absolutely amazing time next August. So, I really encourage everyone to get in touch and find out more about it. And most importantly, see this incredible master at work. And I just want to say one last thing, Steve, what you said before about, the Forrest technique. Because when I first met you, I suppose in the big picture, well and truly on the road of being an astrologer, but still at the, not so far down the path. And I'd finished studies in to be a modern astrologer. So I suppose if I was going to call myself anything, I would have said I'm a modern astrologer. And I loved everything I learnt and I wouldn't change it. But for me, I always felt like something is missing. And when I found Steve, I should say, they always say when you're ready, the right teacher comes into your life. And when I found Steve, it was like a key. Well, no, I'll tell you what it was like for me. When you go to a 4D movie and you don't put the glasses on is sort of where I was at. But finding the key and the Forrest technique and evolutionary astrology and everything that's fast forwarded to this moment in time was like suddenly I had the glasses on. Everything came to life. And I remember the moment that I went, you know what, this next client that I have, I've then study with Steve, do all this stuff with him and go, yep, I am now an evolutionary astrologer. And the day that I decided old techniques are there as foundations, but this is how I'm moving forward. And I had a person coming, and I remember looking at their chart and thinking, okay, I'm following these steps. I'm working with this nodal story. It was the most incredible session. I was so blown away. The client was so blown away because I felt like I spoke to her heart, not to her
Yeah,
head. And I
yeah,
think she felt her soul was truly seen in that session.
yeah,
And to me, that is just everything you've just been sharing, Steve. For me, that is what it's about for your soul to truly be seen and acknowledged and validated and supported for the potential and the growth that we have in the lifetime that we come into now. So thank you.
yeah.
Thank
Well,
you. Thank you. Thank you.
and
So
thank
I
you
think,
for keeping the flame burning yourself. It's obviously I'm getting older, and it just really warms my heart to realize that after I'm gone from this world, there will be people who continue this tradition, and that they'll have students who are not even born yet, and it will this ball will keep rolling after I'm gone. All astrologers, every school of thought, they look at a chart and they'll kind of tell you what it means. Some do a better job than others, but here's what your chart means. We evolutionary astrologers, we do that too. But we also ask another question. It's like, why do you have this chart? Not what does it mean? Not only what does it mean, but why do you have it? And there's such a simple line of reasoning here. If we if it's easy to recognize that astrology works, anybody who's got an open mind, they give it 10 minutes and they say, oh my God, this stuff works. Maybe crazy, but it works. And once you see that, there are two ways of understanding it. One, life is pointless, the universe is meaningless, everything is random, and astrology works like E equals MC squared works or something. It's just a law of the universe, and so you have this chart, and there's your life, and then you die, and over and out, fade to black. Didn't mean anything. I've never met an astrologer who had any patience at all for that perspective, even though there's a kind of logic in it. But once we reject that idea and recognize that astrology works, we have to recognize something made you have the chart that you had. You have. Your chart is in effect what caused it. And the next logical step, totally simple, irrefutable, effects follow causes. What caused you to have your birth chart had to happen before you had the birth chart. I mean, duh, it just seems so simple and straightforward. Now, that's not a proof of reincarnation, but it is certainly consistent with the idea of reincarnation. Something made you have that chart. That's why it is meaningful for you to have it. We frame this in terms of the assumption of prior lifetimes in which we all were imperfect, just as we're imperfect now, where we got some things wrong, or maybe bad things happened to us, or we fell into some kind of comforting illusion in our beliefs, all the usual human traps with which every humble person is familiar in their present life. And I always like to point out that this is sort of fun to say. It would apply to you too, Lisa, that you were even dumber in your past lives than you are now.
mhm.
Anybody who gets angry doesn't realize that's a compliment.
Mm,
It means you're learning and you're going in the right direction. Of course, you were less evolved in the past. Think of the mistakes you made then.
yeah.
And so we all come into this world with some unresolved issues and they have some momentum. There's a tendency to repeat these mistakes. And with very specific dimension of evolutionary astrology that you've referenced, the analysis of the nodes of the moon. We were able to sort that out and help people understand where their blind spots are and how to fix them, how to sort of get on with it. And then pertinent to the program that we'll be doing in Australia in August, the we can recognize that certain times in life we were scheduled, so to speak, to encounter the effects of the past, like when the planet Neptune forms an aspect to the south node of the moon. Just for one example, at that time, it's like the karmic wave breaks, and we see the evidence. If your unresolved karma is interpersonal, you're going to meet the people, from the prior lives
Yeah.
with whom you need to experience forgiveness or liberation or bury the hatchet or sleep with them if you were frustrated because you didn't sleep with them in the past. I mean, it can take so many human forms, but the idea that we can recognize not only the nature of the unresolved karma, but and not only how to deal with it, but when you're going to deal with it. And so we'll be focusing on the transits, the progressions, the solar arcs, the so-called predictive techniques in astrology. Although I'd quickly say they don't predict what you will do. They predict the questions you will be asked. You're free to answer them wisely or foolishly.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, perfectly said. I love that whole, the predictor of the questions that we will be asked, and it's just fantastic. Putting us in the driver's seat from a free will perspective, but certainly supporting
Yeah,
the evolutionary potential for growth.
yes.
What more can I say?
Exactly.
Fantastic,
I
Steve.
always like to, free will, of course, you use the term, I use it too. And I always add one more term,
Hmm.
personal responsibility.
Yeah,
It's you can't have free will without thinking about personal responsibility.
absolutely.
Everybody loves the idea of free will. They're not so sure about personal responsibility, which of course sounds heavier, but we are responsible for the realities that we create with our decisions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we need them, everybody, to be in Newcastle next August. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody, that's a
Mhm.
lot of people, isn't it? So, those of
Yeah,
you
you
that
don't
can
have
be
that many
there,
seats.
it's going to be great. And Steve, again, thank you so much. It's always just fills my heart to sit with you and connect in the way that we just have. And to everybody else that's been watching this, I look forward to, at whatever stage and wherever, seeing you all soon. So until then, I'll say bye for now. Thanks again,
Thank you.
Steve. Take care.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.